2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here we go. Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast, raw, real, and unedited. My name is Jason. You can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear this podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, Amazon. And a Catalyst has the power to create change. We hope that's what this podcast will do. Welcome to episode 22. All right, now if you'd like to be a part of this podcast as a guest or a contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail, catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. All right, so we're continuing on with our story here, and we're going to be wrapping it up real soon. In 2024, we are going to be looking for some guests. I do have some topics for the first couple of weeks that I like to focus on. But for right now, let's get back into my story, my journey through this cancer, and what I've gone through and what I did go through. We talked about the vision that I had of my grandmother. Once I had the CAR T put into me, we talked about the conversations I had with her, how COVID shut everything down, how my cousin had to go and get a place. Instead of staying with me, he had to go and get a hotel. It was crazy. It was a crazy time. But as we were going through that, and I was going through this, even though I was off on a medical leave, I was still technically working. So I was checking in on my team that was working remotely, already home before everything was shut down. I'd be sitting in on meetings, and we were doing an interview process, trying to hire another person. We were going to try and bring about what would happen with that situation. So there was a lot of things going on. But everything kind of got even crazier on April 1st, 2020. April 1st, 2020 is when I was talking with the president at the time, and the ops manager, but mainly the president. And we were talking about the opportunity or possibility of bringing one guy in. We were having a conversation about that, and we said, we'll talk about tomorrow, or people consulting what they're going to do with this guy. And I remember when I hung up, my cousin was, because by this time, I'd become an outpatient. This was like the first full week I was an outpatient. And I remember my cousin sitting there going, you know what, man? This company you work with is amazing. You know, how they're letting you, you're going through cancer and they're still allowing you to work and all this stuff is great. And it's like, well, there's kind of been a few bumps in the road, but you know what? I can't really complain about this place. Well, that changed immediately when the phone began to ring. It was the president of the company. He called me back. And he's like, man, I hate these calls. And I'm like, oh, we're not going to be hiring this guy? Oh, come on, man. With all this COVID crap and everything going on, we're not going to hire this guy. He's like, no. That's not it. We're going to let you go. And there was some... I remember laughing and going, dude, that's really funny, April Fools. I get it. He's like, no. We've been talking with the people who do our I guess the checking company and the legalities of stuff like this. So they were talking about this for weeks. And because of COVID, there was a loophole, and they decided to take it. And while I was going through this treatment, I got fired. I went, you guys can't be serious, right? This is really a joke. You can't be serious. But they were. And they were going to give me like 2 weeks, I guess. They're going to pay for all my insurance up until July. But they were letting me go. You can't do this. Like, well, no, we technically can. So I hung up with them. I called about 5 different lawyers. And because of COVID, it set a precedent. And so people who were like me or anybody else who had any kind of illness or issue or something like that, they were free to be fired. And I was one of those people who was free to be fired. So I called them back and said, whatever you want to do, just give it to me. Well, we need our computer back. I go, I'm in Tampa going through cancer treatment. I think you forgot that, assholes. I'm not leaving fucking Tampa for your stupid fucking computer. Well, when you come back, if you can make that, put that on your list of things to do. Like, fuck you. You abandoned me. You abandoned me. Who's going to hire somebody who has cancer? And now we're in COVID. Who's gonna? How do my family and I live? You fucking assholes. And the owner, who was too big of a coward to even fucking make that call. Fuck him. I just remember my cousin sitting there and going, I don't know what happened. And I don't even know what to say. I don't know how to fix you right now. I've never witnessed anything like this. So I told my, at time, very supportive wife. And of course she had a meltdown. How are we going to live? What are we going to do? She started selling furniture and things. Like, she, again, on the extremes of life, she was. And like that's what I need. I needed like a hole in the head. And to be honest, with all the stuff that happened with me, divorce, when I first got cancer, to not getting anything for Christmas or a birthday, to having my father's wife raise money and keep it, and then deny me of my father, and him having a stroke, and my mom having a stroke, and then him passing. All this, the cancer coming back again, working at a company that was garbage, and treated me like garbage. This was the thing that broke me. Just broke me. And I just remember I just laid in bed for 3 days. I didn't move. I didn't eat. I'm like, it was probably the dark in my whole cancer treatment, or going and dealing with cancer. It was dark. Once again, by people in life, or at least that's what it thought. And I think I had like a couple days off from the hospital, and then I had to check up. So I did like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks in the hospital, and then the rest of the time was outpatient. And so I go in, and I tell them what transpired, and everybody's trying to give their 2 cents and kind of help out with that and all of it. And I remember the nurse came in and she was like, "Have you checked underneath your arms for golf balls you have?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." It's like, "Why don't you go and check those?" And because I had these really big golf ball sized tumors underneath each arm. And so I went and looked, and they weren't there anymore, or they were at least the size of peas. She's like, "Do you understand what's going on right now with your body? Do you understand what you've been doing with everything you've been doing and thinking, the way you think you're so positive and so motivated, and you're going to let this destroy all the hard work you've put in? Look at what's going on with your body." She was right. She was right. I was cancer-free the first time, but I was in an environment that I feel made me sick again. And now here I am, and this stuff is working. I'm going to go right back to that same thing. And I was like, "No, you're right." So after 3 days of just laying around and doing nothing, I got up. And I started to do small walks and do some exercises and get myself refocused. It was going to work out. There was going to be a way I was going to make it through. And it was funny. A week later, I got 2 phone calls for job opportunities. And I had interviews while I was there. And come April 18th, I go into the doctor's office, and he shows me a scan, Dr. Jane. And from where I was, looked like somebody took a picture of my x-ray and had ink and dropped ink, and there was big giant ink blotches all over my body. It was gone. It was gone. Now, I had fluid in my lung, but it was gone. And I think we weighed myself, and I think I lost almost 8 pounds in tumors. Yeah, 8 pounds in tumors. So it was time to go home. It was time to go home. And so I had to face what was going to be there when I arrived. Now without a job, a bunch of medical bills, and a wife who's looking to divorce me. But the crazy thing was, I had my life. I was cancer-free. Everything else kind of seemed small, looking at it back then. And we'll talk about it some more in the next episode. But right now, this is episode 22 of the Catalyst Podcast, raw, real, and unedited. My name is Jason. You can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, and Amazon. A Catalyst has the power to create change. We hope that's what this podcast will do. Thank you so much for listening to episode 22. If you'd like to be a part of this podcast as a guest or a contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to episode 22. We'll see you on episode 23. Go be great.